the entire month of March. It is Consumer Awareness Month. This is when you start to ask yourself questions of how well you are protected in the market, from getting the right data, right information, right prices, right treatment in these markets, all the way to understanding fully what it is that you're consuming and the process of that consumption of the products and services you're getting in the market. And you wonder, do we have those kind of movements in the country? Do we have those people who are preaching for you this gospel and also helping push the government and the right people within the market then to make sure that you're well protected in the market? Yes, they do exist. And this morning, we do have the Executive Director of Consumer Grassroots Association, Alice Chamonto. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
I'm happy to have you around. And every time I have these conversations, you know what we do? We float your poster. After we float your poster, then questions start to come in. Then you realize that that's when majority of Kenyans really do not understand what their rights are in the market. This morning, we are talking about fair treatment of consumers in the marketplace. Well, what we went into is two areas of this conversation. There are those people who are asking from a service perspective and from a product perspective. I'm going to start from a product perspective this morning. But we're talking about a fair treatment of consumers in the marketplace. It is a wide conversation. Can we start unpacking it? When you say fair treatment, what do you essentially mean? And even before we get to that place, it is Consumer Awareness Month. What should I be doing as a consumer this month to celebrate this month?
Well, thank you so much for this great opportunity to speak to our consumers out there. And as a consumer lobby group, we are committed to consumer protection.
Yes.
Consumer rights are usually infringed in the marketplace. And this month is the Consumer Rights Awareness Month.
Yes.
To be specific, on the 15th of March, every year we celebrate the Consumer Rights Day worldwide. And that day was settled that by the UN because of one J.F. Kennedy in 1962 that came on board boldly and spoke to the gathering that the U.S. Congress during that day, telling them that consumers have to be protected and their rights have to be upheld. And in 1983, the first World Consumer Rights Day was marked. And since that time, this day is celebrated. But as consumer advocates, we take the whole of month of March as the Consumer Rights Awareness Month. Why? Because consumers are the largest constituency that we have anywhere you go. And consumers, being the largest constituency, the population is so high, yet they don't know their rights and obligations too. Sometimes we are supposed to remind them of their obligations. In Kenya, to be particular, we are so privileged, unlike other African countries, to have the consumer rights in our Bill of Rights. That is Article 46 of the Constitution, where it's well stipulated that we have rights, but we go further also to tell consumers that they have responsibilities as individual consumers, because for your right to be infringed, then it takes two. To ensure that your rights are also upheld, it takes the two of us. I mean, when I'm talking about two means, those that are supposed to uphold the rights, and yourself that should be knowing what your rights are. Otherwise, if you don't know your rights, what are you going to protect? If you don't know your rights, how are you going to take maybe the government into task to ensure that your rights are upheld? So during this month, we encourage consumers to read. Let us be students of our Constitution. Let us go to Article 46 of the Constitution. If you cannot be able to read another part of the Constitution, that article is very clear. and come to reading alongside that, you go to the Consumer Protection Act of 2012 that stipulates very well how consumer rights should be upheld. And when you're talking about the fair treatment in the market, we all know there's nothing perfect in this world, and that's why we've chosen the word fair, because we want consumers to be respected, to be treated fairly, to be heard, to be their issues to be responded to. Let the government come up with policies that are for consumers, not against consumers. Basically, that is what we do as consumer rights advocates. And as the Executive Director of Consumer Grassroots Association, I double up as a chairperson of a coalition of consumer organizations. Now we are 10 consumer organizations in Kenya that have come together and want to work for the common good of consumers in this country.
Yes. Pretty much. Now let's then start to break down this fair treatment. Is it a bit difficult to talk about fair treatment when the first thing the majority of consumers would essentially want to get is the right to information about a product? What is the defense for majority of the manufacturers? That, number one, we are guided by consumer laws, we are guided by manufacturing laws, we're even guided by what should be happening in a particular country in as regards industry rules and regulations. Why then would we extend this information to a consumer knowing very well that we play within a certain industry that also has its rules and regulations? Are the consumers not demanding too much?
I don't think so.
Yes.
Consumers are not demanding too much. In any case, who are you manufacturing that product for? Is the end user.
It's the end user, isn't it?
Yes, and the end user.
But even before you started manufacturing, unless were you not guided by the laws and regulations of that particular country or that industry?
That is very true.
Yes.
That any product before it comes to the market, it has to be certified.
Yes.
We presume so. Except that the other day I was so shocked to hear from a key person from KEPS saying that they just trust those who are, they only give the standardization mark to those who, they just trust what they produce, so they just give the standardization mark to them. So anyway, that's a conversation for another day. So yes, there are guidelines on how to produce, how to manufacture products that are in the market. It's true there are guidelines, but as a consumer also I have a right, because if we didn't have the rights, then that could not be in our constitution. Because I have the right to information. I want to make informed choices, because different products, we may not have the same taste. That's number one. And when it comes now specifically on products that we consume in terms of they go into our bodies, leave alone the services, it may work against us maybe when it comes to health implications. So if I get information, I can be able to tell whether this is the right product for me or not the right product for me. What will be good for you may not be good for me. Maybe this product has milk in it and I don't consume milk. So if you give me the information of what is contained in that product, I'll be able to make informed choices. So basically, consumers have a right to know what is contained there, and if whatever that has been used to produce that product is what is acceptable. Yes. You know, there's one thing to produce anything in the market, like what we have in Kenya, the Kariobangi light industries, you all know and you are aware about that. When you go to these small shops, you find some products, a replica of similar products from the main manufacturer, but it has just emerged from some slum area here in Nairobi. And it ends up in your small market. Some end up in the supermarkets. That notwithstanding, it's only fair that we get to know what is contained in those products because it will help us to make informed choices. Don't force me to consume what is in the market just because you have produced this, just because you quote unquote have maybe a brand that is well known. No. I have a right to know what is contained there. And for this, we've been pushing the line ministries and departments to ensure that any product that has been produced has to be labeled nicely for the consumer to make the right choice. Yes.
Pretty much. Guess what? We did post that question this morning on what are you concerned about when it comes to your consumer rights in this country. We got a lot, and I'm gonna just get through a sample of questions that came in on this particular one for information. Good. This is Vera this morning, and Nakshi. I'm gonna start with Nakshi. This is what they're saying. Well, number one, I am worried that I've got no information about the certification that KEBS does to our sugar in the country. Goes on to say, I read media stories about mercury in sugar and contaminated sugar, but I do not have the information of where it ends up. I am a worried consumer. Is also part of what we're talking about there, right to information. Sugar is a big case, and KEBS has also been touched in this story by Nakshi.
Yeah, true. And this is a story that you've had, a conversation that has been in this country for quite a while, that KEBS is failing Kenyans to some extent. KEBS and other government agencies have failed the Kenyan consumer for not really taking action on the kind of products that are in the market. Yes, we've had even whistleblowers coming out and reporting, and most of those whistleblowers, you realize, are those working in those go-downs, and they are feeling that this is not the right thing to do. We cannot allow this to go to the market. So they give voluntarily, they give the information, thinking that, in the hope that the government and whoever is tasked with this noble cause of protecting consumers will take up and take action on it. But what do we find out here? But I don't want to be forced to use, but I'm being forced to use. This is a man-eat-man society, see? What is happening ideally is what comes to my pocket and not necessarily what somebody is going to suffer from. And this is what's happening in this country. And KEBS, to be particular, we've asked them severally in several occasions, why are they not being responsible enough? And what they tell us, we are overwhelmed, we don't have the budget to go and do all these things. And then you are like, why can't you fold your small bags and leave office? Because if you are not able to do that, then there's no need for you to be existing. And in some extent, they tell us that some of the products don't follow under their docket. Some fall under ACA, that's the Anti-Counterfeit Authority. And the food products fall under different other agencies. So another area that is putting the Kenyan consumer in trouble and not knowing exactly where to get help from is the disintegration of mandates and regulations. And you realize that what KEBS is supposed to be doing, we presume that KEBS is supposed to be doing, when we get there, we hit a hard rock, we are told we are redirected to another department. So as a common Kenyan consumer may not have the luxury of time going from one department to one agency to another, trying to find solution to the problems that they are going through. So our take as consumer advocates is that most of the things that touch on a consumer should be under one body, one roof, where consumers can have a one-stop place where they can get their they can be helped from, where their complaints can be handled. So this is what we are getting, not only sugar, other products also that are in the market, consumables to be precise. We have had complaints. To be precise, Consumer Grassroots Association is not an old organization, but we've done the bit that we've been allowed by the Almighty to do for the time we've been in existence. So since we became an entity in 2018, even though we were working as a CBO before that time. What has happened is that we realized we cannot be able to serve consumers from one roof, from one place, from one national office. So we have devolved our functions to the counties, and since we don't have much resources, and I wish the county government or the county officers listening to me can take up this role, we are ready to educate, teach them, sensitize them, and give them, pass on this baton to them. What we have done, we have established 4 county offices, that is in Homa Bay, in Busia, Kajiado Interior, and Nairobi. Now Nairobi, we migrate from one place to another because we are using a tent, because Nairobi with 4 million Kenyans, it's not possible to, so we move from one informal settlement area to another. And you might be asking yourself, why informal settlement? Because many times those are the people that are not really informed. Many times that's where and counterfeit goods end up to. Many times this is where repackaging is done of expired food that is resold to those small kiosks. So we go to sensitize them. That's why we move from one informal settlement to another informal settlement. Like now we are based in Kawangware. That's where we are doing our sensitization. The other time we were in Mathare. We went to Kasarani, and we want to move to Kibra. So it is like tunahama from one place to another. So it's really a big deal that people need to come out of our own closets and get to know that we have a constitution that is protecting us. But that constitution alone cannot protect us if we can't take action. So there's a constitution that gives us the rights, and we have a responsibility that whenever your right has been infringed on, please come out and make it known. Nobody is going. You know, a right is something that cannot be taken from you.
Does that?
Yes.
So I've got another question from Jim Walker. And take 2 minutes to respond to this before we go for a tiny break, and then come back and see some of the advancements that you've made as an association. So this is Jim. Jim, good morning, sir. He's saying, I'm a bit concerned that supermarkets are now making their food, repackaging their food, and putting it on the shelves. Is that right? Because they're also selling foods that are authorized by other manufacturers to be in those supermarkets, repackaging and selling. Goes on to say even sugar as the brands. Should I be worried about this repackaging practice?
Thank you so much for that question. We just had a meeting last week with the RETRAC team, and this is what we were discussing about, that how safe is any product that is packaged or repackaged at the supermarket. How safe are those products? So this is a conversation that is ongoing, because they can get sugar, let's say, from Mumias. We want to go deeper, because as consumer protection or lobby groups, there are some things that we cannot do on our own, and we have to work with others like RETRAC. RETRAC is a very key actor in this, and all supermarkets are under RETRAC. So we are going to have this conversation just to ensure that whatever is being repackaged in those supermarkets is safe. And we want also to see the necessary documentations from the manufacturers allowing them to repackage that. And we want also to involve KEBS. KEBS has to tell us, what about it? Is it okay? And what do they need from KEBS for them to be able to repackage? Because you find that their us also a KEPS mark. So we want to know how they arrived to be given the KEPS mark. Yes.
Pretty much. That's exactly the conversations that we're going to get into even after this break. I see a lot of your questions. Even we do have one of somebody who says, if I want to be heard, where do I go? They're saying the only channel that's available is to go back to the seller or manufacturer to launch that complaint. But it starts there, ends there. If I want to be heard about a quality of a service or a product, where do I go today? Once we come back right here on the Morning Drift, we are with the Executive Director, Consumer Grassroots Association, Ales Kiamunto, is talking about fair treatment of consumers in the marketplace. Once we come back, what have they done? What advancements have they made since 2018 to date as an association? And if so, if you want to be heard today, what are the open channels in the Kenyan environment for you as a consumer to launch your complaints, to get educated, and also for you to choose as well? Once we come back right here on the Morning Drift.
Of Nairobi is a distinguished institution of higher learning dedicated to nurturing your intellectual curiosity and pushing the boundaries of knowledge. From state-of-the-art laboratories to modern libraries equipped with the latest resources, we provide you with the tools you need to succeed. Choose from a wide range of programs designed to prepare you for challenges of tomorrow's world. Whether in STEM, humanities, business, or the arts, our strong industry connections and career service support will help you translate your education into meaningful career opportunities upon graduation. Join a vibrant community of scholars from around the world, fostering cultural exchange, collaboration, and lifelong friendships. Book your space now for September intakes. Log in to https://www.uonbi.ac.ke for a wide range of courses to choose from. You can also contact +254 020 491 0000 or email us at pr@ounbi.ac.ke.
Save a Life is a non-profit organization that has taken the front line in transforming lives in the entire country. So far, we have transformed life of over 100,000 people through our programs, which include medical support, youth empowerment, street family program, feeding program, and climate change. Join us today as we transform lives. As we always say, service to humanity is service to God. Save a life, transforming lives.
And we are sharing about the need for revival.
It means that it's a fire, a particular kind of fire that a nation or a person was walking in, but they're no longer walking in that fire. So when we say it is to live again, it is where God rekindles that fire inside that person and awakens that person to come to a level where God wants them to operate in.
There's need for us to come back. It's a comeback to where we were. It's a comeback to that first love. It's a comeback to, in fact, a revival in essence means restoration of the presence of God.
We really need the Word of God. It's the Word of God that will bring the revival that we need.
So if as a church we can bring the right teaching on the altar, then a revival will be preparing and be ready for the revival.
If we don't reveal Christ in our services, we are empty.
We are empty.
Right, then let's talk about it. And if you don't have any question, we are going to float it to Alice Kamunto, the Executive Director, Consumer Grassroots Association, just like we've done, and then read your comments and questions to her. which is essentially a reaction to her poster. So we'll be again checking our live feed at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms on what your rights are. Just before we get into that conversation then, for what they have done, what advancements they've seen happen in the country in terms of consumer rights and protection, I want to ask her some questions that have come in again on open channels, that consumer education, which is a bit that you invest a lot in as an association. That today, should I feel aggrieved as a consumer of a service or a product, what are these channels that are open to me that I can actually start utilizing today right here so my voice can be heard about these products and services that we're consuming in the Kenyan market?
Consumers are well protected under the laws of Kenya.
Yes.
And it's only that they need to activate that, because when you have any, and if you feel you've been aggrieved in the marketplace, there's several ways you can get justice.
Yes.
And one of them is just reporting this matter to the relevant authority. Because if it comes to, let's say you went and bought sugar, or yes, let me talk about sugar, that you thought it's 1 kilogram, and when you went to measure, you realized what has been sold to you is 800 grams. Actually, this is a case in point that we found in Homa Bay.
Yes.
We took a branded sugar of 1 kg, purported to be 1 kilogram, and we brought 3 different scales. And before the Consumers Parliament that we usually hold, we measured live, and it was less by 200 grams.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you get, if you are aggrieved in such a sense, what you do, their departments, and this is why you need to understand what are the roles of those departments charged with the responsibility of protecting you. The weights and measures is supposed to be taking up that case. If you find that is the standard issue, which means, of course, standard you may not be able to ascertain because you don't have maybe the apparatus to measure that. But in case you get a hint that there's something wrong in terms of standard with what you're consuming, just take it to KEBS and KEBS will take it up. And if it comes to maybe food and substance abuse, we have other departments to do that. But since you may not be able to know where the KEBS office is, where the competition authority offices are, just come to us as Consumer Grassroots Association. We have online channels. We've received so many complaints.
Yes.
Last year alone, in our consumer desks and our online channels, we were able to receive 2,744 complaints.
And that's a lot, isn't it?
Yes, yes. We are able to receive those complaints.
Yes.
Some have been channeled to Competition Authority of Kenya for action.
Yes.
Some we have taken the relevant authorities to task, and they have been able to be solved. And I'm talking of complaints not only in Nairobi, but other counties where we have the consumer desks. And online, you can just write to us through our Twitter handle, Facebook, even call our offices, and we are able to help you out. Most people that call, we follow up with calls, and where necessary, we send our representative. Now, going forward from the month of, from next month, we are going to have our in-house legal officer who is going to take up issues that get out of hand, and maybe litigation might be required. So from next month, Consumer Grassroots Association is going to have a lawyer that will be in-house working with us throughout. We have rolled out the advert, and we are going to recruit one for these purposes, because most of consumers may not be able to go to court to get justice. But we can do that from our end, and we can consolidate some of the issues, and then we take them to court for them to get justice. So our online platforms, Consumer Grassroots Association, are open. Twitter is consumers _Kenya. So please just come and talk to us. We are ready to listen to you, and we are ready to take up your complaint. Our phone number is 020 for, 020-2100-470, please just call us and we'll be ready to work with you. So there are so many channels. And if you feel you are right at the grassroots,
yes,
and you don't have anywhere else to go, please just go to the nearest government office. And the nearest and the lowest unit of government is the chief's office, the sub-chief's office. Just go and report an issue there. And believe you me, they will direct you or they will call the relevant authorities. So you are surrounded by quite a number of options. So it's you to choose which option to use.
Does it?
Yes.
Let's talk about that particular area right there. That indeed, if you look at the way the Constitution envisions consumer protection, consumer education is a very big aspect of consumer protection, because you cannot protect somebody you've not really educated. Are there channels that the government has really invested in heavily for consumer education? Is that what is lacking? Is that why you're having 2,000 plus complaints on your platform? Is it because we've not really invested enough in consumer education on this?
The issue we have in Kenya is that consumer rights are not taken seriously.
Yes.
Consumers themselves are not taken seriously, and they are treated as flower girls wherever they are. Consumers in this country are not respected. Their rights are not respected. And that's why you get a government that wants to pass a bill, a finance bill, comes to consumers. We give our own views, and our views say no to this finance bill. What happens next? The government passes it. So if the highest authority cannot even respect and uphold what the Constitution says,
yeah, what
do you expect with those who are implementing down here? So this is the problem that we really have as consumer lobby groups. And the soul actually will not be existing if the government did their own due diligence and carry out their mandate as it is. So the government has a sole responsibility to educate consumers. Ours is just to encourage, to support what government is supposed to do.
Yes.
We are not supposed to replace government, but government is supposed to take its own responsibility to educate consumers. But look at what they do. When they want a finance bill to pass, they'll put all the money there and ensure that every person in this country thinks about that. But let's come to consumer rights. Let's come to other human rights. What happens? They don't put money there. They don't put resources there. What does that tell us? Consumers are not respected in this country. And that's why anybody wakes up any day and says this is going to be A, and you have to sing A or you go to hell. Aupewe sijui mambo mangapi. You know, it really pains that consumers in this country are not really respected. Yeah. Go to the Western countries and consumer rights are respected. Wherever the government does anything, they have to consult the consumer rights advocates. But in Kenya, you are others. You are only mentioned in proposals. They can only call other associations, let's say farmer associations, they can call business people, yes, they can call other, but the real consumer is never involved. And this is where we have a problem in this country. But if you don't respect me, then what happens? So basically what we are telling the government is that, please, if you swore my president, my deputy president, the other day we had the Consumers International Congress, yes, here in Kenya, and the deputy president came to grace it himself. And he said that they are going to continue to uphold the consumer rights. But actually when kikuja kwa ground vitu ni tofauti, they are doing completely different. Yes. Our consumer rights are not upheld. You know, when we are telling you that the cost of living is so high, can you please calm down and listen to us? Yes. Can you at one point come down and be with us? Come, wananchi wa kawaida, and see what the others are going through. So that when you are going to push for the passage of the housing levy, you will know the kind of person you are trying to impose that tax on, you know. Basically, consumers are not respected in this country.
Yes.
I can start by saying that. Consumer advocates are never consulted in anything. Consumers are never consulted in anything. And when you say that, you know some government officials, what they tell you? Oh, all of us are consumers, even us are consumers. So they want that conversation to die off like that.
So are you saying that for the past 6 years that you've been in existence, Alice, that you felt like you're walking a long journey, that the government hasn't held your hands so they can actually promote this conversation for consumer rights and protection?
We cannot say that we haven't achieved. To some extent, we have achieved.
Yes.
As the consumer rights advocates and our coalition, that is the COC, what we have done is simple. We've taken a route that is not confrontational with governments. And that's why, like last year, Consumer Grassroots Association, in conjunction with the county government of Kajiado, we were able to pass 4 laws that are really pro-consumers. And they are agriculture law, the agriculture acts that are pro-consumers, because we sat down on a round table. We were not confrontational, and we brought our issues on the table. They brought theirs on the table. And when we went to review the bills, it was easier for us now to come to a consensus on what is supposed to be contained in those bills. As we speak, we have 4 acts, and we are going to work on a regulation of a Crop Agriculture Act, which is going to assure consumers of food safety. Okay, so as a coalition, we've taken a different route, and that's not being confrontational. What we are looking at is not just being celebrated as heroes, you know. We don't want people to say, oh, so and so can come to TV or can go to the street and shout at the president. No, we don't want to talk at each other. No. We want to sit on a round table and agree what can we do in order for consumers to enjoy the benefits of even the constitution that was just yes. So that is what we have taken. So from 2018 up to now, we are working, we have our own activities that we are doing and projects that we are implementing. But other than that, we started this journey 4 years ago, starting to bring our other consumer organizations together, because us alone as Consumer Grassroots Association cannot be able to serve the 50 million Kenyans. So, and we cannot be in each and every sector, because as we are focusing more on food products, and there are those who are focusing on other areas. So we want to bring everybody under one umbrella. We speak in the same language, we come and share, but when we go out, we work in different sectors. And this is what we have achieved so far. And right now we have a COC. COC is the Coalition of Consumer Organizations. One day maybe I might request your team to host us here. The representatives will be here, and they'll speak on what they have achieved. If the area of insurance, we have one. The area of health, we have one. With the area of climate change, we have one. So that way, we'll be able now to share more to the government. But as their representative and the spokesperson, we have really come a long way. And we've managed to reach out to many consumers. To be precise on our own, when we looked at our reach right now, we have been able to impact to around 240,000 Kenyans. So meaning that if other consumer organizations also can do that, because through our social media platforms, through sending messages, getting feedback, we were able to gauge ourselves that for the past 6 years, we've been able to reach to 240,000 consumers here in Kenya. But we want to do more. And our membership has risen to around 210,000. We want to see us having a membership of 1 million plus. That way, we'll be able to get a bigger audience to be listening to get information to us. So basically, yes, we've made some strides, And you know, when you are doing a foundation, not many people be seeing the effect and the aftermath of that foundation. But we rather have a strong foundation that anyone that will be coming after us can build on. So this is what we are doing. We've been building, we've been grounding this foundation to be more stronger, and bring many actors on board to ensure that going forward we'll have a stronger voice, consumer voice in Kenya.
What are the various ways that the association has used to talk to the consumer in respect to this education? How are you able to talk directly, and especially in the grassroots areas, about their rights, about the things that they need to understand in the market?
As I said before, we can't do this alone. So what we have done, we have mapped out the community. Media is a very key actor, key stakeholder in the whole issue. So we've mapped out the community radios, community TVs, and social media platforms. So we started with media. And from time to time, even tomorrow, we have a media engagement here in Nairobi. And what we usually do, we bring media personnel together, not really everybody, but select few because of the resources available. And we discuss, we give them what we have as consumer rights advocates, and we ask them to work closely with us, So basically what we have done to be able to reach to the mwananchi mashinani, we identify the key stakeholders to work with, if it's farmers, women groups, through youth groups, and now media. We come into, we usually form meetings, and those forums are the ones now we share with them what we are up to and what consumer rights are all about. That is one way we do, through forums, identifying, we do the stakeholder mapping first of all, and then we do forums for that. Number two, we have brought the government on board as a key player. And we want to show them that this kind of engagement is not like maybe what they have been used to. That the government stays in the right hand and the civil society in the other hand. No, we want to work from the same table. And when we need something done, we explain to government to see the light of the day. Then they can be able to use their own channels to ensure that that information reaches to the consumers. And especially the issues of food safety. We have worked very closely with the public health, very closely. So the other way that we do is by having forums, online forums, where consumers themselves join. The normal consumers, you and I, now join, and we can discuss. Sometimes we do from county to county, and sometimes we do nationally. And the other way we communicate to consumers is by ensuring that we have written leaflets. Those leaflets we go and live in specific select areas where consumers can get that information. But more so, when it comes to the food issues, we work closely with the market leaders. Market leaders, market officials are very key when it comes to issues to do with sanitation in the market and food safety in the market. These are some of the ways that we're using, other than now the social media platforms, the TV, like what we are doing right now. Most consumers can be able to get information from us. It's only that this is a very rare opportunities we don't usually get from media houses, considering that they also have other programs to run.
Pretty much. Just as we come back to what you envision this particular area to be, just that the Constitution wants it to be. There's a question here that I've been asked again that I'll put to you as well. Thank you very much, Nick, for watching us this morning. Nick is saying, and I'll put it to you the way it is.
Yes.
I do not understand the language that majority of our food manufacturers use when they're telling me about the ingredients. We read it, we don't understand it, and we wish we could understand it further. Is this an area that I can go and petition CAPS to change?
It's yes and yes. It's a yes and yes. It's
Yes.
not a yes and no.
Yes.
Why am I saying it's a yes and yes? Sometimes back you realize that the banks used to give the terms and conditions in very fine prints.
Does it?
But we've worked closely with Kenya Bankers Association before, and that is now changing. And the terms and conditions are explained to the customer
Does it?
before they sign for loans. So when you are saying it's yes and yes, I mean that this is an area you as a consumer can go and petition KEBS to ensure that that is changed. Yeah, you have a right to do that. I don't know what the name of the...
That is Nick.
Yes,
Yes.
please, Nick. You can go out, and that's I want an empowered consumer like him. You know, when consumers are empowered, we make this life easier. And then you asked, what do we envision?
Yeah, this particular area for consumer protection and rights. Yes.
What we are looking forward to achieve as a country, first of all, before we go even to East Africa and a continental level, what we want to achieve is to achieve an empowered consumer. We want an ecosystem where consumers are empowered, because if I will empower you, then you are able to protect yourself. I cannot be in Coast and be in Nairobi at the same time and be in Kisumu at the same time. But if we get empowered consumers, then areas to do with consumer protection, it will not be an issue anymore. And by the way, somebody might make a joke, or someone made a joke the other day and told me, so if we are all empowered, what will you be doing? No, as a consumer grassroots, what will you be doing? Because we are existing because we are empowering
because
consumers.
you're empowering consumers,
Now I told them that if we can achieve that, then we can venture into something else. We don't have to necessarily
continue empowering the area. Every other person is empowered, isn't it?
If they are empowered,
that's it.
That is it. Now they can be able to they can be able to reach out and ensure that their rights are protected and upheld. Yes.
That's it. So, just as we cap this conversation this morning, Atlas, and you've already spoken about it. So from today, when I step out to go to the market, getting these products, getting these services, as a consumer today, if there's something you would want to tell a consumer today in terms of them getting this education, in terms of them getting their right, and there's so many rights, even from the right to choose, so right to even negotiate, what would they start from today? If this is the first time they're hearing this conversation, and the first time they're seeing you as well, hopefully not, what would you ask them to start from as they make the steps in enlightening themselves in this area?
Okay, before I make I respond to that, allow me to mention the theme for Consumer Rights Day this year. It's fair and responsible AI for consumers. That is the theme for this year. And one thing I must admit is that we are also using AI in different platforms to upscale the issues of consumer protection, consumer rights to the consumers themselves. And we know that there are many people that are using AI, and we are trying as much as possible to encourage those who are developing these platforms to input the right information that is going to benefit consumers, because you can't have AI without data. You cannot have AI without a developer that is responsible. So we are urging the developers, those companies that are developing the AI platforms, to ensure that those information that is input there, the information, the data that they are using is credible, so that consumers can trust and can be safe when they're using the product. That's number one. So you are asking,
what do they start from? What can they
when you're
start
going
from?
to the market and you want to get a product, ask yourself, why are you going to purchase that product? Ask yourself first of all. And where has that product come from? You should also try to understand where the product has come from. And that's that brings me to the project we are implementing right now on food safety and agroecology. We try to encourage consumers to get food stuff, especially from farmers that they can be able to talk to, they can be able to reach out to, where they know where food has come from. Why are we saying this? Because we've noticed that some farmers, and maybe most of you consumers who are there, some farmers don't really care about what you consume. They have two sets of portions. One portion, they produce a product without chemicals, without toxic pesticides and other chemicals for their family's consumption. But the one that they take to the market, they spray even today and tomorrow is in the market for you to purchase. You get it? But if that person is your neighbor, or some people know about that production, what happens? It will be easier for you to tell that it has not been given that time for that product to be, at least to be neutralized, yes, for it not to affect you. And that's why we are getting so many medications. I believe you are in so many WhatsApp groups because of people who are supposed to go to India because of cancer and other food-related or untreatable, so to speak, diseases. So what I'll advise the consumer, one, know where that food is coming from. Know, first of all, why you are going to purchase. Know where that food is coming from. Yes. Look at the environment where the food is being sold. Because some of us consumers are the ones encouraging even the poor sanitation in the market. Because if you put your food in a sewer line, you know, you are selling food and you're even cleaning it with the water from the sewer line. Then I stay there, I come and purchase. I'm encouraging you to continue doing it. So we have a responsibility as consumers to ensure that whatever that is being sold is sold in a clean environment. And if it's a product that has come from the factory, please could you look at what they have labeled as ingredients. Yes. And if it will work for you, please go ahead and purchase that. Check on the date, expiry date, because that is also very key. Some of them, yes, they can repackage, but some of them are in the market that, I mean, you can be able to tell the expiry date. So be a responsible consumer. Yes. And if you are responsible enough, then we call you a sustainable consumer.
Pretty much. Yes. I mean, you've been told, you've been advised where to start from. And if you can't listen, then listen. Because you'll be part of the solution of getting informed if you start asking the right questions. Just like Alice is asked this morning, why are you going to get that service? Why are you getting that product? Once you ask yourself that question, then you're in line to get informed about best practices, fair treatment, and what should be happening in these marketplaces as regards your rights and protection as a consumer. Alice, thank you very much for coming by. Well, it's a pleasure to have you around.
Thank you for hosting me.
Yes, well, thank you very much for your questions and contributions as well this morning. Hopefully you've learned. This is it for today. I'll see you tomorrow for another session. Goodbye.